You are in the Power Zone now with DU. DU's Power Zone.
The Power Zone with DU is dedicated to bringing you insightful communication and resources that will guide you further in making your personal and professional goals a reality. Through candid, stimulating, and essential conversations, we focus on the 9 universal goals of success, which include career, finances, education, family, arts, attitude, health and wellness, leisure, and public service. Based upon these goals, we provide you, the listener, with practical measures of advancement.
Good evening, family, and welcome to the Power Zone with DU. Again, welcome to the Power Zone with DU. I am your host, Darlene A. Anderson, motivational speaker, philanthropist, author of Not Without a Fight, 10 Ways to Win When It Appears As If You've Already Lost, and founder of Darlene's Utopia. And again, you are in the Power Zone with DU. It's been some time, approximately a month or so, since we were last out here for the Power Zone. I hope you all have enjoyed the rest of your summer as we are moving into Labor Day weekend. I know you all are excited about it. Wave your flags high. I am waving my Jamaican flag. Yes, I am Jamaican descent all day, every day. And to all of you out there, Trinidadian, Haitian, Jamaican, Barbados, Costa Rican, whatever it is that you are claiming of Caribbean descent, claim it and enjoy yourselves and be safe for this Labor Day weekend here in New York City. Now, with that being stated, I hope you guys are checking out the archive, and you have been checking out the archive thus far. We've had some great shows over the past summer in July. We had Brendan Ortiz of What Does HIV Look Like, the monologue. It was awesome to go out and partake in his event this past August. You all can actually go to our affiliate page, Utopia Network Inc. Again, that's Utopia Network Inc. The website is www.utopianetworknyc.com. There you can check out some pics from Brendan Ortiz's event of What Does HIV Look Like. In addition to that, you can check out Darlene's Utopia's website and view the archives of the prior show and listen into that. We'd also like to acknowledge Ms. Valerie Terry, who was our very last guest on the show this past July. And Valerie had an amazing platform in which she discussed about her community service in addition to what she is passionate about as it relates to bringing about justice for her sister. So tune into that show as well and leave your comments to us. Let us know what you think about the Power Zone with DU, some of our prior shows, and what we can continue to bring forth for you so that you are continuously in the know of insightful and resourceful communication. Now, if you're joining in for the very first time, welcome. We hope that you enjoy it and tune in each and every Wednesday thereafter. And if you return, well, you know we love to have you back here. Thank you so much for joining us, and continue to be here and tell your networks, Facebook it, tweet it, LinkedIn it, Instagram it, everything. Pass the word that the Power Zone with DU has returned, and we are going hard for the fourth and last quarter of 2015. On that note, we're going to go out for a very small break, and when we return, I'm going to tell you all about the show for this evening and what the theme is. We're bringing you themes for the month of September, what the theme is for this month, and why I am extremely passionate about it. We'll be right back, family.
Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you've tried, no matter how often you've tried, you can't win? for always losing. Marriage, relationships, children, family, finances, work. The list goes on and on. You can't seem to ever get it right and are often left with that lingering feeling of doubt, wondering, why should I even attempt any further? If you have experienced these feelings, this book is for you. Not Without a Fight, 10 Ways to Win When It Appears As If You've Already Lost delivers transparency, resilience, strength, and practical measures that will encourage you to stay in the ring and fight for a few more rounds. You will feel rejuvenated and encouraged to continue as you affirm your winning moments are a breath away. As you read this book and reflect on your challenges in life, it is my hope that you will begin to incorporate the principles of winning into your daily regimen. You may feel beaten thus far. However, know from this moment forward, you are a winner. Say it, see it, believe it, be it. Order your copy of Not Without a Fight, 10 Ways to Win When It Appears As If You've Already Lost at darlenesutopia.com. Darlene's Utopia is a full-service consulting company created to empower, motivate, and provide resources for clients through coaching, speaking engagements, and events. Our goal is to help clients and event attendees reach their highest personal and professional potential. To learn more about Darlene's Utopia, log on to www.darlenesutopia.com.
Welcome back, family. You have returned to the Power Zone with DU. I am your host, Darlene A. Anderson, author of Not Without a Fight, 10 Ways to Win When It Appears As If You've Already Lost, and founder of Darlene's Utopia. Again, welcome back, family. Now, when we left on a break, I stated that the Power Zone would focus on themes. We're focusing on themes for the month of September and beyond. And this month, the themes are specific to community, family, education, as well as the arts and entrepreneurship. We are focusing on those things because in those elements, we can help to promote change within our communities to individuals as well as their families. So for this show on this evening, we're talking specifically to education. So family, I think at this time, I'm going to allow you guys to grab some pens and papers or log on to your computers and take some notes because what we're going to be talking about on the show tonight will be very useful, if not for you, to pass it on to someone else. So please, each one teach one. Again, tonight we're focusing on education. I had the pleasure of meeting a dynamic woman of God, an educator, a facilitator, an empowerment coach, and entrepreneur over the past summer. Acknowledgement to Man Up, Inc. in East New York. Brooklyn Man Up is a nonprofit organization that is doing a mighty work for the inner city population, not just young men, but young women as well. Although the concentration is for men, they are educating the masses, and they're doing an amazing thing out there. Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Peterson, shout out to Mr. Mitchell and Mr. James Peterson. Mr. Peterson is a lifelong friend of mine. He's the executive director of Man Up Inc., and the both of them are doing an amazing job there and really reshaping the stigma, really dissecting the stigma and reshaping what inner city youth should look like. All right? So on that note, I went out to an event in which I met Miss DeAnna Smallwood. And as stated, Miss DeAnna is a minister, an educator, a facilitator, empowerment coach, and entrepreneur, which drew me to her to the point where I said I needed to have her on this show, and I let my team know it would be just of importance that we reach out to her as early as possible and ensure that we schedule her for September. Was her passion for the community, her passion to educate parents, to educate children, to ensure that not only is she educating them, but she's also putting practical measures, intervention in place so that they can move forward in their circumstances and be successful. So I'm going to bring her on the call, and we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what she does and why it was so important to have her on the show. Ms. Smallwood, are you there?
Yes, I am, Darlene. I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. I'm so honored that I was invited to the call. I thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm honored to have you on the call. Happy September to you.
Thank you. You likewise.
Thank you, thank you. So we're going to actually get into who Ms. Smallwood is professionally, but I always speak to who the person is personally. I let the family know exactly who you are, and then we'll move into some of the things in which the theme is about. Is that okay?
That's okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I always start with where you were born and raised.
I was born in Manhattan, but I was raised in Queens.
Okay, all right. A Queens lady, a Queens queen.
Yes, Jamaica, Queens.
Jamaica, Queens. You know, you can't talk about Queens unless you are saying Jamaica, Queens. Queens is not Queens unless you're making reference to Jamaica, Queens. So shout out to all of our Queens people on the call. So from Jamaica, Queens, you migrated to Brooklyn?
Yes, I did. That was way back in 1996.
Okay, all right, in which you're presently a Brooklynite, correct?
That is correct.
Beautiful. I love Brooklynites. Everyone on the call, if you're a listener of the Power Zone with DU, you know that on the call we just give special attention to all of our Brooklynites. So it's not a bias. It's not a prejudice. It's just what it is. I am a Brooklynite, so we have to hold our hands up to all Brooklynites. Whether you have Kings on your birth certificate or not, we still show love to Brooklynites. So good for you. Good for you. And presently, so you're also a minister. You're a minister of the gospel, and above all, God takes precedence over everything.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And your church home?
Yes, my church home is the Divine Church, where the pastor is Reverend Christopher L. Boney Sr.
Awesome, awesome. So acknowledgement to your church and your pastor. Thank you for sharing. And your first lady.
Yes, absolutely. She co-pastors with him. That's very important.
Yes, it's always important. We always have to acknowledge those first ladies because they, too, are reshaping the whole what it is to be a first lady. It's not just about sitting at the front of the church with your legs crossed and your hands in the front. First ladies are really up in the front, on the center, in the pulpit, really helping to minister, and that's an awesome thing. And I've heard so many great things about your first lady, so congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Okay, so what you're passionate about, let's talk about this. I had a gentleman on the call, Mr. Don Sinkfield of Help to Adjust, and I have to acknowledge Don. He's awesome. He's been out to the Making of Moguls 1 and 2, and on the last show he was on, we were speaking to mental health, and we touched a little bit on IEPs. And family, if you can remember what an IEP is, that is an individualized education plan for students in school that have special needs, disabilities. specifically, and we'll speak to some of those disabilities. But we spoke a little bit about IEPs, and I said that I needed someone on the show where we can expand upon it and really give our listeners information that they can utilize as they're going into the school year 2015 into 2016. And it's an honor, again, to have you on the show. So can you just give us your educational background?
Yes, absolutely. So I was educated at CUNY Brooklyn, and I have my education encompasses both general and special education. So I could teach under both licenses, and I have a 10-plus years of teaching, and I've taught on every grade level from pre-kindergarten to grade 8, as well as I've taught in both public schools and private institutions.
So for some years you were actually in the classroom teaching. Did you teach both general and special education?
When I initially first started teaching, my first 2 years of teaching has been general ed. And then from there, I joined or I applied to the New York City Teaching Fellows. And so from there, everything that I've done as an appointed teacher, and even when I went to private institutions, it was special education.
Beautiful. A lot of our parents that are listening in on the call have children that have IEPs or know someone that has an IEP. It's become more common than not. What exactly is an IEP, and how do you work to execute that in your school system, or how did you? Because right now you're not in the school system, so to speak, and we'll speak to that as an educator, but you're doing a greater work, so we'll get to that in a second. But can you just explain the process of an IEP?
Yes. Well, what an IEP is, it's an individualized education program specifically developed for a child. And there's a lot that goes into it. Children have different learning styles. They have different needs. And so the IEP pretty much sets goals for the child to meet based on their learning styles, based on their specific needs. And so there's a process to it. A child may need services. They may need an individualized education plan, but it doesn't just come about automatically. When a teacher or anyone else in the school system happens to see that a child needs additional support, what is done at that time is some type of intervention is usually implemented. And the intervention is implemented for a specific amount of time. It might be 6 to 8 weeks. And in that period of time, what we're looking to see is if there's any progress made. And so throughout that time, there's assessments, progress monitoring to see if the child is actually meeting the goal. If indeed it is found that the child is not meeting a goal, at that point, there is a referral that is made. And the referral could be made by the parent. It could be made by an educator in the school. It could be made by the principal. It could be made by anyone who's on that interdisciplinary team, such as the social worker. Maybe it's the school psychologist. So then that's when an initial referral is made. And after the referral is made, there's something that's called an evaluation. And so the school psychologist will evaluate the student. Of course, in order for this to be done, there is parental consent that is needed. And so if the parental consent is not needed, then nothing takes place. And so if nothing takes place, then the teacher works within the parameters that she has. She does whatever she needs to do to get that child on point, collaborating with all the other school staff.
But DeAnna, if we could just take it back for a second, because you just given so much information, and I want to make sure that the listeners understand. So the first point of reference, you stated that if the child is assessed to possibly have a disability that's hindering his learning process. Are there various categories? Are there categories to an IEP? Because you'll have someone on the call right now that may say, well, my child has difficulties paying attention, whereas someone else may say, my child has difficulties processing information to do the work. So are there different categories that go into an IEP in the beginning stages? Like, what is the assessment? How are they identified?
Okay. So I just spoke about the assessment process, how the evaluator is generally the school psychologist. And pretty much what he does is he does what's called, it depends on which school it is, first of all, and he will make sure he does an assessment. And depending, based on the assessment that he does, he will come back with what things he found. So he may have specifically found certain things. Now, depending on what his findings are, he may come back with the child leans on the side of autism, or maybe the child leans on the side of having an emotional disturbance. There's many different types of testing that they will do. And I should mention this as well. Included in the assessment, the psychologist also goes by the notes of what a teacher may give him. So a teacher may, So a teacher, when she's placing the referral, she's actually telling the psychologist, these are the difficulties that I see that the child is having. They may be lack of focus. They may keep getting up during certain processes or certain times in the day when instruction is moving forward. Or the child is not getting the content the first time I'm teaching it or the second time I'm doing a reteach. And it's not going in. And I tried teaching to their specific learning style, but it's not working.
So generally, the teacher is the first point of reference in most cases, unless the child is coming from having an IEP, because IEPs begin as early intervention, even like during preschool, correct? Maybe preschool or kindergarten. And to my understanding, they're not supposed to carry over, but sometimes they can carry over into kindergarten and elementary school, depending on the severity, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is absolutely correct.
So parents, it's good to understand that if you are not familiar with what an IEP is and your child has never been identified as requiring one, then generally speaking in elementary school, your teacher, as she's stating, would be the first point of reference to make these assessments. Okay, so I hope you guys are taking notes because this is really good stuff right here. So from that point, now we have the psychologist, correct? The psychologist or the social worker, or is it two and the same usually in the schools?
Actually, there's two separate functions. The social worker pretty much will work with the child and the mom in the home, and in the psychologist is specifically school-based.
Okay. Thank you. And this is the interdisciplinary team, family, that she's speaking to. So you have your teacher, your social worker, and your psychologist, as well as the parent who is involved in this IEP, correct?
That's correct. And there may be other teachers involved. There's the special education teacher, but there's also perhaps the art teacher. Maybe there's the gym teacher who now realizes that the child has difficulty in mobility. So instead of having a regular gym class, they may need an adaptive gym class. So it's all the different teachers within the school system.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, DeAnna. This is great stuff. And family, if you're tuned in from your devices, you can actually click on the Department of Education website, get some more information about IEPs. Do your research, family. Do your research. If you know someone that is struggling and they don't understand what an IEP is and what that team is, DeAnna, I work with a lot of young moms, and they have no idea what's going on with their children as far as the language and as far as the services that are needed. And it's really sad because these plans, they aren't successful without the contributions of parents. Without the education of what's going on with your child, these plans won't be as successful as they possibly could be if everyone aboard was educated on what was going on. So this is really great stuff, and I'm honored again to have you on the call.
Thank you so much. I'm just glad and excited to be here.
Oh, of course, and hopefully it's the first of many. So this is where you're at right now. So you're in the schools, you're doing this work. How did you move from being in the classroom to now being a facilitator for the Department of Education and beyond? Like, you've taken your knowledge of working with children with disabilities from K to 12th grade and their parents, and you're beyond educating in the classroom. What prompted your decision to step outside the classroom and do this on a different plateau?
Well, Darlene, I was prompted, I believe, spiritually led, I believe, to educate parents in the education of their children. It had happened many years ago when I felt led to try to do these within my school that I was at. And the assistant principal at the time had told me, oh, well, we have the parent coordinator who could do this. But I had already a vision in my head of what the Lord wanted me to do. And I knew that the parent coordinator did not have this background in special education to be able to bring forth what needed to be given to the parents. And I always believed, and one of my philosophies as a teacher is that you have the child who goes to school, who's responsible to learn, but also you have the teacher who is more than just the teacher, but also she is a listener. She is an observer. She is wearing many hats. So she's giving the child what's needed, but we also need that third component, not just the student, not just the teacher, but the parent.
Yes, correct.
And so that whole support system is going to get the child to where they need to be. And so I was led to do these workshops. And so I found that inside of the public school system that there was really just so many problems with bridging the gap. And so it seemed like it needed to be done to get the parents involved. So I still educate. I still do intervention. It's just not in the public. It's just not in the public school setting. But I know that that important component is not just me, the teacher, but the parent as well.
And that is in your two workshops. So you have two different components for the services that you provide to parents.
Right.
Well, actually, it's just not to the parents. It's to the schools, to the parents, and to the students as well. And one is TIPES workshop. Is it TIPES? It's TIPES workshop. That's PIEPS, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so the PIPES workshops, that is pretty much a workshop that is comprised of several different components. And so one of the first things is to give the parent first what is special education? You know, many people think special education is a place, but special education is actually a set of services. And then what is the IE process? What does that look like? What happens throughout the process? What does an IEP look like? What is it? And so that's one of the components. And then the second component really just gives parents a snapshot of disability. So there had been 13 different categories of disability, and I believe they added one more or two more. And so you have your disabilities such as autism, you have ED, which is emotional disturbance, you have IDD, which is intellectual and developmental disabilities. We also have learning disabilities. We have multiple disabilities. We have speech and language impairment. So there's a whole host of disabilities. And so parents may want to know, well, what does a certain disability look like? And so that particular component gives parents a snapshot of what disability looks like and how having the disability can hinder their child. For example, you had spoken about maybe somebody has a processing issue. So a parent can begin to understand the disability when they know that a child who has a processing issue, you can give them directions, but the reason why they're not doing what you told them to do is because they did not receive the information like somebody typically developing would.
Yes.
And so when they know that they're giving information, they could be given strategies in order to better work with their child at home and also to be a support to their child in school.
Exactly. Beautifully said. And this is very much needed. It's very much needed because it makes all the difference. I remember sitting with a young lady and providing social services to her a few years ago. She and her family. She had around maybe 2 or 3 younger children, and we were talking about her son who had an IEP. And I was actually helping her. It's funny because you start off helping with one thing, and any social workers on the call, case managers, even therapists, you can definitely relate because therapists nowadays is coming from a generalistic practice. You're helping them with one thing, coping with one thing, but then you want to doing a slew of things for them so that you can address that one thing that they're in there for therapy for. So this young lady was actually in, I believe, it could have been something as simple as health insurance. And from that, we wound up speaking about her son who had an IEP. And she said that she was struggling with him because he wasn't doing his homework properly and he wasn't focusing in school. So I said, well, what do you do with him when he comes home? And she said, if he doesn't do his homework, he doesn't get any video games, he can't do anything, he just has to go in his room until he can do his homework. And I said, well, if he has an IEP and he can't focus in school to do his homework, how can he focus in the room on his own to do his homework? And if he's not listening to you, maybe it's because he's not receiving what you're saying, as you just said. So it goes back to what did the plan say and how are you helping to execute the plan? Do you find that this is a problem with not just parents but young parents maybe?
I do, Darlene, and I find what it is that many parents don't even make the IEP meeting, so they have no idea of what's on that IEP. Because, see, the beauty of the IEP is that the strategies that the teacher's using in the classroom are the same strategies that parents can use at home.
Correct.
And then if they don't work, then they can always be modified. They can always be adjusted. They can always be upgraded.
Thank you for sharing. Now, what happens when some of our parents don't make those IEP meetings? Because we have parents who are working 9 to 5. Maybe they're in school. They can't provide child care to get there. Are there ways in which they can learn about the IEPs if they don't make the meeting? Because that's the next thing that I've heard. And because you're our in right now, you're the most resourceful person we have to get this information. What happens when they don't make those meetings?
What happens when a parent doesn't make the meeting is that all the people who are there putting together the IEP, and really the parent is supposed to be a part of the process, but if they're not, then the teachers and the interdisciplinary team go ahead and sign off. What they do is the teacher, the general education teacher, the special education teacher, if there's speech involved, they all put the goals, the annual goals down. The special education and the general education teacher will work on present performance, where the child is now and where they want to move the child to. And then after the annual goals go on, and everyone signs off who's present, signs off on that IEP, and then within a certain amount of days, that copy is sent to the district, and it's also a copy is sent to the parent. And so from that point, once the parent has okayed the evaluation and the IEP is put in place, then that's pretty much it. They don't really have any say. Now, they could go back to the teacher and talk about concerns. And, of course, the goals that are on that IEP are going to be implemented and to see if there's some progress made. It's only after the point where progress is not made that there would be any other changes to the IEP.
So it's the same, is it modified each year, and is the modification only specific to the grade curriculum? So, for example, if all is going well and the child is progressing throughout the year, and let's just say he's in second grade, then for third grade, will it only change based on the academic piece and everything else will remain the same, or nothing changes?
There are changes made. It depends on what progression the child has made. So there's generally indicators. There's generally the teacher has to go and put where, the IEP goals have to be specific and measurable. It has to be a time frame of when the child is going to meet those goals. So if by that, what a good teacher will do is she will be looking to see within, maybe if the time frame is a year, she'll be looking at 4 months, is this working? She'll be looking at 8 months, is this working? She'll be looking at different intervals to see if it's working, because you're not going to wait until the end of the year and the child's not making any progress to make changes. If you see that no progression is being made within 8 to 10 weeks, then you need to get another plan.
This is awesome. Now, DeAnna, is this what you discuss in your workshops as you're educating parents as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is beautiful. Family, did you know that when you came on the Power Zone with DU on this evening that you will be getting insightful and resourceful conversation and resources as such? This is amazing. And for it to be the top of September, and most of us on the East Coast, in New York City, we haven't started school as of yet. I know the charter schools and the private schools have. The DOE actually starts the day after Labor Day, I believe. That's the 8th or the 9th. I believe that's the 8th. So that's really great information to have as we're going into the new school year. Again, sis, I'm honored. We actually have to go out on the song of the show, but when we return, I'm going to speak to creating success for children in schools, and this is specific to children and their parents that are in, I guess, mainstream, like a general ed for DOE, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so I'm excited about that, but I need to ask you, what song motivates you the most and why?
Okay, the song that motivates me the most is called Moving Forward. It's by Israel Horton. And the reason why the song motivates me is because it speaks to God. Once you surrender your life to Christ, you're a new creature. And it speaks to Jesus having risen with all power. And so in that, we're given a second chance. And so all things are new. All things are passed away. And when I think of how God created people to be progressive, we're always supposed to be moving ahead. And so I didn't even know anything about this song, but in 2014, I was led to create Moving Forward, in which I'm the founder and CEO. And so there is an umbrella for many different programs, such as the 6-week summer program, the pipes workshops, the tutoring, and a host of other things. And so I wind up hearing the song afterwards, and it's a song that really touches my heart and speaks to us being progressive beings.
I love it. Amen, sister. Thank you for sharing that. That was a testimony in itself. Yes. Family, we're going to go out on a small break. This is our motivational song, our mid-song of the show, Moving Forward by Israel Horton. We shall return after this break.
What a moment, you've brought me to such a freedom. I have found in you, you're the healer who makes all things new. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not going back, I'm moving ahead, here to declare to you, my past is over. You, things are made new, surrendered my life to Christ. I'm moving forward. Oh, you've risen with all power in your hands. You have given me a second chance. Hallelujah, hallelujah, yeah, 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 oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm not going back, moving ahead, here to declare to you, my past is over. You, things are made new, surrendered my life to Christ. I'm moving, not going back, moving ahead, here to declare to you, my past is over in you. Things are made new, surrendered my life to Christ. I'm moving forward. Said I'm moving forward. Singing you made all things new. Yes, you made all things new, and I will follow you
Power Zone family, have you heard the news about Utopia Network Inc.? Utopia Network Inc. is a New York-based 501c3 nonprofit organization. Their mission is to connect individuals and families with services that will promote stability and a better quality of life. They are committed to ensuring that the underserved communities have an understanding of the tremendous opportunities of productivity in their adversities and move to actions of advancement. To learn more about Utopia Network Inc., visit them at their Facebook fan page, Utopia Network Inc.
Welcome back, family. You have re-entered the Power Zone with Darlene A. Anderson, founder of Darlene's Utopia and author of Not Without a Fight, 10 Ways to Win When It Appears as If You've Already Lost. And I am here with my very special guest, Miss DeAnna Smallwood, minister, educator, facilitator, empowerment coach, and entrepreneur. Welcome back to the show, DeAnna.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you having me.
No problem. We appreciate you being here with us. We family. Let me just say, if you have just tuned in for whatever reason, if you're joining us on this live show right now, if you just tuned in, we need you to go back and listen. If you are in on the archive and you just marked this space right here to listen, we need you to rewind it and listen from the very beginning of the show, because DeAnna has provided some great information as it relates to individual education plans. Now, DeAnna, I want to ask you, earlier you said individual education program, but then you also said plan. Now, is it used interchangeably?
I'm sorry. If it came across as program, that wouldn't have been correct. It's just an individualized education plan.
Plan. Okay, great. And the reason why I asked is because if you Google it, you will see IEP as an individualized education program. And that speaks to just the umbrella maybe of an organization that's providing various services more so than an individualized student with the plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, awesome. Well, it's good to know the difference of the two. It's great information. So, family, we're speaking to individualized educational plans specific to students in schools with disabilities, and that disability can be a disability that is physical as well as cognitive. Is that true, DeAnna? So when we're talking about maybe occupational physical as well as cognitive, so there are various types of disabilities to take into consideration.
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
All right. Great stuff. So we've summed it all up. Family, again, I invite you to rewind and check out the first half of the show and leave your comments. If you have questions for DeAnna, we would love to get them and give them to her. So that's info@darlenesutopia.com, or you can just go on ahead and put that on our Blog Talk Radio page, and we'll make sure to give her your questions and get your answers back. Now, let's speak to creating success with children in schools. I'm excited to hear more about this. Please share.
Okay, so creating success for children in school is another workshop, and actually I had a great opportunity to do this workshop this past last Sunday at a back-to-school empowerment event. And so this particular workshop really is for parents who have typically developing children, but we know that children may have a whole host of other issues. Even if they don't have an IEP, they may have low self-esteem. They just may not have a whole lot of confidence. They may not just be doing well in school for whatever reason. And so because the Lord told me that children are the world's greatest resource, we had to put something in place for them as well. So this particular workshop, I bring out all my tools, and so I give some general tips to parents, such as that at any level that their child is on, they can be engaged in their child's education, and that would be communicating with the teachers, communicating with the parent coordinator for what programs are available in the school, communicating with all different people within the school system, and then also we talk about planning, because over the years I've heard many parents complain about what's needed at the beginning of the year. But my thing, and I just keep it real, is that if you have children that are not graduating and going on to college, well, then you already know that their child is going to need things for September. You know that. And so you can plan to make things a little easier. And one of the things I share with my parents is finding coupons. For many schools are uniform schools, and you can use coupons. The school will give you coupons, or you will find them coupons at Cookies, which is a uniform store. There's Ideal, and they'll give you a coupon upon walking into the store. Also planning for class trips, for projects. In the years that I've been teaching, there's been many children who were not able to go on a class trip because their parent couldn't afford it. And so then there would be other parents, or I myself would put the money out for them, and we had no problem doing that. But again, you can plan for uniforms, you can plan for supplies, you can plan for projects and for class trips. And also, there's support systems in place if there's a financial difficulty and you cannot afford these things. So parents are generally embarrassed to let a teacher know that she doesn't or he doesn't have money to send his child on a class trip. But if we get that information, we're able to plan beforehand instead of, leaving the child back at school. Class trips are very important for children because they're enrichment, and it really exposes the child to culture or to environment, to whatever it is that the trip is. So it's very important. It's most important. Next, I encourage parents to know what are the expectations for your children. So if your child is going to the 3rd grade, if they're going to the 5th, the 6th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, what is it that they're supposed to know? Are you aware of the Common Core material that they should know on that grade level? Generally, the schools make that information available, and they usually have a workshop at some point during the school year, usually in October. So it's good to get parents involved in that. And then another thing that seems to that parents are maybe not too much aware of is that we have to make sure that children get, and children of all ages, get a good night's sleep. Studies show when a child gets a good night's sleep and they have a decent breakfast in the morning, that they're able to operate better in the classroom. And what many people I found parents didn't realize is that children who go to sleep with the TVs on or a light on, or if there's a light on somewhere in the house, our bodies produce what's called melatonin. It helps us to sleep. It helps us to sleep and rest well. When there's a light on, our bodies detect it, and it thinks that that it's not nighttime. It senses that it's not nighttime. Therefore, our body does not rest appropriately.
Correct.
So that is not good in the classroom when a child is trying to get in new information. One of the other things the workshop speaks to is balancing the use of electronic gadgets. In this day of age, we're in the technology age. And so most children want to be on a computer. They want to be on an iPad, a laptop, the Wii, the Xbox. However, all of these things should be controlled. Like, for example, if there's a certain amount of hours in a week that a child goes to school and a certain amount of hours that go toward homework and other things, then it should be balanced out. Like, a child should never come home and watch over 2 hours of TV. That's
we can't even watch TV and I'm telling my age now. God feel like I'll be 40 in October. I know some people are like, you're still a baby, but 40 to me is definitely not the era of a baby. I don't feel like a baby at all. But growing up, we couldn't watch television, not even on the weekdays. We had to wait till Fridays to watch TV, Saturdays, sometimes Sunday. Like, watching television right after school now, it was unheard of when I was going to elementary school and even junior high school to a degree. You could watch television. So now it does have to be, because the technology is just so different now, and they have babies. I see babies out in the street, on the transportation, on the trains, and they have devices. Babies are using devices now before anything else.
Yes, it's really incredible. And so I know parents probably think it's a way to engage their child, but really studies show that unless it's something educational based, that it causes the brain to become dull. And see, our children need good critical thinking skills. And so electronic gadgets do not support that.
Yes.
So there has to be a balance.
Correct. Now, are you working with parents outside of DOE? Because I know that you go into the school system and you provide these services, but are you also meeting within communities and providing these services? Like, I know you're very passionate about Ocean Hill, Brownsville, the Bedford-Stuyvesant area. You're doing work there as well, correct?
That's absolutely right, Darlene. I started in Brownsville, because that's where I reside, and so I've had a couple of people that I've networked with, and they've allowed me to come into their facility and provide these workshops. And so we usually do outreach to the community to get people to come in. And just as I said, recently I was able to go to a back-to-school empowerment workshop and actually provide this workshop to the parents, and it was very, very well received. And I even made it known because, sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, we're all a work in progress. So one of the things I love about what I do is that I'm not just a teacher, I'm also a parent. So when I spoke to the parents about helping your children to get a good night's sleep and keeping the lights off, well, I had to share about my own son who's actually afraid of the dark. And so we're right now working on getting him to sleep without light. But I told the parents that I'm a work in progress because I'm not there yet. But the thing is that I work on it. And so... Yes.
Correct. I could definitely relate to that. As a coach, I always say, personal and professional development coach, what I tell others to do, I have to do myself. And oftentimes, the same homework I'm giving, I'm doing myself.
Absolutely.
We are all works in progress, so I can definitely relate and understand. And thank you for sharing that. Being transparent is an amazing thing, especially on the show. When you look for that, sometimes you have to show your wounds. You have to show that you are human in order for people to receive you and trust you. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I love being able to share because I feel that that's the way for people to really know that this is real. And I understand. There's struggle, there's setback, but, we got to get back on track because our kids are the world's greatest resources.
Definitely, sister. So we have Moving Forward. The song was phenomenal. Love it. Putting it into my favorites and filling it out when needed. So Moving Forward is actually, that's your company's name. Everything is under the umbrella of Moving Forward.
Yes.
Beautiful. What can we expect from Moving Forward in the last quarter of 2015 and into the new year?
Well, some of the things that we're looking to do, we're looking to get into, especially with the PIPES workshops, we're really expecting, and creating success with children in school. We're looking to really get into different educational systems, not just the DOE, but into charter schools, to really just create networks of support for parents. And I believe wholeheartedly that this is really going to make a difference. And that we'll begin to see achievement gaps close. Because what I've seen from when I've been in the system, it's just not happening. So something else is needed. And if this is what's needed, then I'm going to do what is needed. And so that's what we can expect to see. We can expect to see even more empowerment workshops where people are just empowered to know that they're not alone in this struggle. And that they have, and one of the things, if I could actually speak on this, Darlene, is in your book, you speak about one of the fight principles being to have a support network. That's something that I just developed within the last year. And so it's important for parents to know that they have to have a support network. And so I'm committed to help getting that ball rolling. And just creating networks. If it's a town-wide network, such as starting with the Brownsville area and then creating one for Bed-Stuy area and other areas in Brooklyn, there should be parent networks in all the different boroughs and the different towns so that parents can really be empowered and know that it's not just the teacher that's going to make a difference, but just their input. They will make a difference.
Correct. And thank you for sharing that, DeAnna. I will say I was a parent of Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and it was a culture shock for me and my daughter coming from and when I say culture, like subculture, we know that there are cultures within cultures. And my culture was all I knew was charter school and private school since my daughter was pretty much, she started school when she was 6 months old. And I've always had my daughter in a form of either parochial school setting or a charter school setting. So to have moved to Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and put her in a public school setting, it was a big transition for the both of us, and it was extremely different. And a lot of public schools parents on the call can probably relate to that. I had to learn really quickly. My support systems were that of the District 23, acknowledgement to Paige Beth Hardy, who is now an amazing mentor for me professionally, but initially she was a support within the Department of Education because she was a district parent advocate. And I needed to learn quickly what that system was like to ensure that my daughter continued down the path of getting a proper education. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, and then I had to have a lot of family and friends to support and learn really, really quickly and be involved in not just the school, but in the community, because the school is a component of the community. So that's when I started getting active in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, because I lived there and my child was a product of that community. So it means a lot to me to hear you talk about the supportive systems in the book, but that right there is the root of how those supportive systems began, really.
Yes, and that is so important, and it's great that you did that. Because children need our support. They really do.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely. So I'm excited about what's to come and working with you. It was an honor to have met you. Again, acknowledgments to Man Up. They're doing great things, but this right here hopefully is a relationship that will exceed this call, that will exceed this quarter. I'm looking to do a mighty work with you in the upcoming years for both Darlene's Utopia and our affiliate organizations, because this right here is what Utopia Network Inc. is really about, and how we want to go out and help the community on a plateau such as this. So get ready, sis, because we're going to be knocking on your door of many of events.
I look forward to it.
Thank you so very much. So where can the family find you at?
Okay, so the family can find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And then the family can find me at D Smallwood. That's at DE Smallwood. That's Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And then at DeAnna Smallwood on Facebook.
Beautiful. And that information, family, is also on our Blog Talk radio page. If you are just tuned in from your phone and you're not able to write it down right now, no worries. You can go back to the page and click into DeAnna's social media links and connect with her from the Power Zone with DU's page. DeAnna, it has been a pleasure. Again, I'm so excited. We're looking forward to doing more work with you. We hope you will join our affiliate organization, Utopia Network Inc. That is a nonprofit organization in which we are doing Operation Healthy Living. Again, family, Operation Healthy Living. And the charge that we have accepted is to work with 100 individuals and or families residing primarily in Brooklyn, New York, East New York, Brooklyn, and help them to set up with health insurance, go out to the doctor, set up with specialty care visits, whatever we need to do to help them maintain healthy living or establish it is what we will be doing. So again, the charge is to sign up 100 people between September and December, and we hope that you will help us, DeAnna, in this mission.
Yes, I'll be more than happy to.
Awesome, awesome. So family, to learn more about Operation Healthy Living and Utopia Network, again, log on to the link at the website and get involved. And if you know anybody that you think will qualify for these services, let them call or call on their behalf. It has been an amazing pleasure, and again, looking forward to we meet again. Family of the Power Zone, thank you so very much for joining us. This is our first Wednesday back We're excited, and it keeps getting better from here. I cannot end this call without acknowledging my baby girl. Today is her birthday. She is 19 years of age, and I am wishing her a very, very happy and productive year. And she's just, she's awesome, DeAnna. You know what it's like to be a parent. You know, you look at these kids, and you're like, where did the time go? Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
God is great, and I'm wishing her continued success on her college experience. This is her first year. I'm just continue to keep us lifted up in prayer, and we will do the same for you as well, family. Thank you for joining us. DeAnna, have a beautiful evening.
Thank you. You too. And again, thank you for having me.
You're very much welcome. Till we meet again, Power Zone family, be well.
The content of the Power Zone with DU, a component of Darlene's Utopia, is intended for general information purposes only. The views expressed by the show's hosts and their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from the Power Zone with DU or Darlene's Utopia. Personal perspectives expressed by the producer, writers, editors, hosts, and guests will always be presented as such. We encourage you to seek professional advice for any problem in which you may have. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Darlene's Utopia or the Power Zone with DU.